Good evening, children. Hope all of you are good. So, let's continue our economics part 3. We have already read about factors of production. What are they? And we just had an introduction of all the factors. If you remember, we read about land in detail. Today we'll be reading about the next factor of production that's very vital for all the agriculture process that is to be followed, and of course it's labor. We already know labor, the human beings who work on those lands, whether we call them as peasants, whether we call them as farmers, whether we call them as laborers, they all work very hard, and that is the reason we get the meal on our table. Laborers don't just work for the purpose of completing or having a subsistence farming to fulfill their own needs. Rather, they work even for selling those crops in the market and getting a profit out of it. That's a separate part. For this chapter, you need to learn that when we talk of labor, they are paid wages by the farmers for whom they work. See, every farmer, children, every peasant doesn't have a land of his or her own. They work on the land of the other people and earn wages out of it. Like if we talk about the professionals who work in different fields, they get their salaries as employees. Same way, laborers, they work on someone else's field and get the wages. And of course, it is not only the wages. Many times you'll read in your book they get the meals also. And when we talk of these wages, they differ from one region to other. They differ from wide areas. And of course, for the whole year, laborers have to be appointed for different kind of farming activities that are to be carried on. The government has already fixed up the daily wage rate for these laborers so that the people who are dealing with them or who are the owners of those farmlands, they don't exploit them. So government has fixed up a particular wage rate of rupees 60 per day, but so many times these laborers, they get exploited too by those farmers, by the owners of the land. And of course, it is because of lack of awareness, or might be they don't have any other work. They feel like whatever they can get, they can earn in the society, they try to earn it. But this is a mere exploitation. So this is what you need to learn about the laborers. That is second important factor of production. Now, the third important factor of production that you need to learn is the capital. While I gave the introduction of this factor of production, capital, I've already told you there are two kinds of capital that are required. One is the fixed, another one is the working capital. Fixed capital is the one where you invest once and you don't have to invest it for very long, not every day, at least not on daily basis. Working capital is the one which you have to arrange every day for different activities, right? Suppose you need irrigation for your farming land. It is not so that once you water your fields, it's enough for a month or a year. You need to water it every day according to the requirement of the crop. So you need tube wells, you need that water supply that can be counted. Although once you have installed it, that will be counted as fixed capital. But when you pay those regular bills, when you spend on different fertilizers, chemicals that you have to spread on your fields, those all are counted in working capital. Another thing, children, that you need to learn in this part is when we talk of the capital, when we talk of these laborers, they earn their wages, they work in two types of sectors. One is the organized sector and the other one is the unorganized sector. Organized sector is the one where you are well and you are paid proper wages, you are paid, you have the proper capital with you. And unorganized sector is the one where you take up loans from the landowners or big farmers and they charge very high rate of interest from you, and they earn too much but you don't get even a small amount of it. So when we talk of all those money lenders, landowners from whom these farmers take up the capital or take up their loans, they trap them in certain situations, they charge very high rate of interest, they actually exploit these small farmers to a very big extent. Whereas if these farmers are made aware, they are made knowledgeable, they can go to the rural banking sector where they can really have a lower rate of interest and they won't be exploited too. But this is the problem in the society when we talk of these farmers. So many times they're not aware or they're not educated and hesitate to go to the rural banks also because of lot of documentation required there. They have this feeling that who will be doing this documentation work, and whether the people who will be doing something for them, whether they are honest in doing it or not. And that is the reason most of our farmers or peasants, they go to that unorganized sector of money lenders, and of course they also go to those landowners and get exploited. I hope this much topic is clear to you. Next we have sale of surplus farm products. See, when we talk of these factors of production, of course when your complete harvest is done, there are so many times maybe you have a very good harvest year and you have surplus wheat or surplus production that has come out, surplus yield that has come out. So small farmers, what they do, it depends upon their family needs first. If they have small families, of course that surplus that they have earned, they'll sell it in the market, or the surplus that they have earned, they'll go to certain people who can grant them loans on the basis of that surplus. Or if they have large families, they can store that surplus for a very long time to feed their own families. So even the other part is, with this surplus they can do the savings also. They can save it for the full year, and of course to use the earnings to buy another assets or any other things or tools or machines they want to buy for their farming activities. So in simple terms, if I talk about the surplus that they earn, that can be used in different ways. I have told you, it can be used for the self-subsistence, it can be used to sell it in the market to earn more profit, it can be used to take up the loan, it can be used for saving purpose to buy machines and tools. So surplus is a blessing to them. Now, these were the factors of production that we have learned so far. Apart from all these factors of production, apart from all these agricultural activities that we have learned, in Palampur village, there are few people who don't do these agricultural activities. They don't have the land of their own, or they are not very well aware of these agricultural practices. They have chosen some other kind of businesses for them. They do some activities, they do some business which is not actually agricultural farming practice. So there are few examples given to you. Like first one, they have told you dairy farming. When we talk of dairy farming, of course the milk is required in every house. So this is one kind of practice that is followed, and of course the milk is transported to faraway towns and cities, and those people also earn a good amount. Second kind of example is of small scale manufacturing in Palampur. With using very simple production methods, there are many small scale farming practices that are going on in the villages like Palampur. And for that purpose, with their own family members only, with very simple tools and machines, they do it on their own and are able to at least have the survival. For example, jaggery, you all know, we call it gur. So jaggery is one form of small scale production activity that is carried on by many of the people in Palampur. Although children, if we talk about these non-farming sector activities that I am telling you, these people, not many are engaged in this activity. Out of 100 workers in the rural areas, almost 24% are engaged in this non-farming activities. Okay, we have learnt about the dairy farming. Then I have told you about small scale production activities. You can put up one example each. Dairy farming, you can write about milk transported from small villages to big towns also. Then for the small scale production activities, you can give an example of jaggery, where the people don't hire up much of labor, don't use very high technological approved machines. With very simple tools and machines, they are able to produce jaggery to an extent that makes their survival easy. Third kind of practice that you learn, it is the shopkeepers of Palampur. See, when we talk of our towns or cities where we live in, we definitely, one or the other way, every day on daily basis, we require groceries, we require so many things at our home that we usually go to buy. Even in this pandemic, those are termed as essentials, we go to buy in the market. Same way, when we talk of villages, the rural area people who live there in the villages, they also need these groceries and many other things at their home. So many people of Palampur have opened up small retail shops in the villages, in the rural areas, and they do sell many things that are harvested from the fields also, and of course, which are the main essentials of every human being. And fourth kind of non-farming activity that people do in the village of Palampur is transport, and of course it is one of the most developing sector in Palampur. So when we talk of all those tractor owners, the truck type drivers, people even driving those traditional bullock carts and bogies, they transport the services from, they transport the goods from one place to another. And of course, as more villages get connected to towns and cities through good roads, transport and telephone, it is possible that the opportunities for non-farm activities in the village would increase in the coming years. So children, this was the last topic of your chapter. I hope you have understood. Just a recap. Remember, in the beginning, we had a word about the fictitious village of Palampur. We learned that how in simple villages also people live up their life, they have their earnings, they make their survival possible. It is not so that people who are living in towns, cities or metro cities are only able to live a lavish life. Even our small farmers to big farmers to landowners, they also live a very healthy and a lavish life. Rather, I think they are more connected to the nature than we people. We have learned different factors of production: land, labor, capital, and of course the human capital, that is the most important one, the human beings, without whom the survival is not at all possible. Then one by one we have read about all these factors of production in detail. After that, apart from the farming practices that are followed in Palampur, we have learnt about few non-farming activities where almost 24 to 25% of the population is engaged in doing those non-farming activities. And of course, in those villages, they are very popular. Whether that is dairy farming, whether those are small shopkeepers, whether those are small scale businesses, or a fast developing business like transport. So children, if we conclude this chapter, if we have to talk in nutshell, this chapter teaches you that life is possible even in small villages. We only need to learn some techniques, skills or tools, and we can survive anywhere. This chapter does not only teach you what are important factors of production, this chapter also teaches you can have your survival anywhere if you make up your mind and of course if you keep your eyes and ears open. So this was the end of the chapter. Please go through all the pages and read it very thoroughly. Thank you so much.